the average person blows a shared budget within 11 days of being given full control over it. Not because they are greedy, not because they are careless, because the moment real financial trust lands in your hands, a program buried beneath conscious thought switches on. And it was never designed to protect the money. It was designed to protect you. Think about what trust actually feels like when it arrives. Someone hands you the joint account password. A partner says, spend what you need. A family member says you are in charge of this. For a split second, it feels like freedom. But your nervous system does not register freedom. It registers exposure. And exposed systems seek cover the only way they know how, through action. Here is what neuroscience has quietly confirmed over the past 2 decades. When perceived safety suddenly expands, when constraints disappear and someone says, I trust you completely, the brain's threat detection network does not relax. It spikes. Because unlimited permission is unfamiliar territory. And unfamiliar territory, to a nervous system that evolved in scarcity, looks almost identical to danger. So the spending begins, not dramatically, not with a single reckless purchase. It starts with small decisions that each feel completely reasonable. A slightly more expensive version of something you needed anyway. A convenience purchase because you were tired. A treat because you had been disciplined for so long. Each one is logical in isolation. Together, they become the leak that drains everything. Psychologists call part of this phenomenon compensatory consumption. When a person is under elevated psychological pressure, including the pressure of being trusted, they unconsciously use spending as a regulation tool. The purchase is not really about the item. It is about returning the nervous system to a state it recognizes: calm, in control, small, safe. The money leaves and the tension briefly dissolves. But here's the part nobody talks about. The trust itself is part of the trigger. When someone trusts you with money, they are also trusting you with proof of your own competence. That is an enormous weight. Because if you manage it well, you confirm who you hoped you were. But if you fail, you do not just lose the money. You lose the story you have been telling yourself about who you are. That threat is existential. And existential threats produce irrational behavior. This is why the sabotage pattern is so consistent across demographics, income levels, even cultures. Studies tracking couples who merge finances show a dramatic spike in discretionary spending in the first 90 days, regardless of prior individual habits. Researchers initially assumed this was about lifestyle adjustment. It was not. It was about the psychological cost of visibility. When someone can now see every decision you make, impulsivity increases, not decreases. The visibility paradox works like this. You would think being watched would make you more careful, and consciously it does, for a while. But beneath conscious intention, the brain experiences surveillance as a form of threat. It wants to reassert autonomy. It wants to prove that it still has agency within this watched space. And spending, even small spending, is one of the fastest ways a person can silently declare, I still have control over something. There is also an identity dimension that almost never gets discussed in personal finance circles. Many people who struggle with inherited financial trust come from backgrounds where money was either scarce or controlled by someone else. When they are finally handed the reins, the brain faces a profound dissonance. I am now the person with power, but I have no internal map for what that person does. So it borrows a map from somewhere else, usually from the culture's most visible image of someone with money. And that image almost always spends. So what actually breaks the pattern? Not discipline. Discipline is a conscious layer applied on top of a subconscious process, and the subconscious almost always outlasts it. What works is naming the mechanism while it is running. The moment you catch yourself reaching for a purchase under financial trust, ask not whether you can afford it, but what state you are trying to return to. What feeling were you in 2 minutes ago? Pressure, exposure, the fear of being finally seen and found lacking. When you name the state, the purchase loses most of its power, because it was never really about the thing. It was about regulation. And once you see the regulation happening, you can choose a different tool, a conversation, a walk, sitting with the discomfort long enough for it to pass. None of these are glamorous, but they are the actual work that financial trust requires. Not budgeting, not willpower, but the willingness to feel the weight of being trusted without immediately spending it away. The Brain Survival Program is not your enemy. It kept your ancestors alive in environments where every resource mattered and every exposure carried risk. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. The only problem is it cannot tell the difference between a predator and a partner who finally trusts you with the rent money. Your job is not to silence the program. It is to be the part of you that can hear it running and decide. Not this time. Not with this.